Rockman H, Rock and Metal Faith Podcast here. We've got another contest. Essentially, it's really just a giveaway to tell you about Robert Campbell, otherwise known as Lazarus Grimm.
And we have couple CDs that we can give away.
Lazarus Grimm, Destroying Your Legacy. Check it out on Spotify. And it's a metalcore artist. Since a little bit of singing, but lots of metalcore style screaming type vocals. If you're into that kind of thing, check it out. If you want a CD, let us know about that. He's also got a second project out under the name Veil Bright. This is a little bit softer, not quite as metalcore. The music is a little softer, more singing and melody in the vocals. I've got a few CDs of each of those to give away. So if you want one of those, all you gotta do is let me know. From all those responses I get, I will randomly pick. And all you gotta do is let me know in comments to the podcast episodes or email us. You can even contact us on our Facebook web page. All the places you can reach out to us. Reach out, let us know if you want one of the CDs. Once again, that's Veil Bright, Still She Rises, or Lazarus Grimm, Destroying Your Legacy. And check out the episode all about Lazarus Grimm as we talk about the music behind that. And welcome to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast, where music and faith collide. If you like hardcore Jesus rock and roll or are curious as to what it's all about, then you've come to the right place. From the classic bands to the up-and-comers, all those in between, we talk about them all right here. So come and join us. We rock the hell out of you as we rock for the King. Woo! Welcome back to the Rock and Metal Faith Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Arin Rockman H, joined by my co-host, Kris. How are you doing, Kris?
I'm doing good. What a podcast.
Yes, we got an exciting one today. We are talking with a very special guest, Robert from Lazarus Grimm. He's going to join us on the show in just a couple moments. First, I wanted to get to some news, and just because we have some news coming up that we got to get to before we get into the main episode, essentially. Hey, our web page is up. If you don't know where it is, it's at Rock and Metal Faith, one word, .podbean.com. We are hosting through Podbean now, and we have a website up through them. Really, I'm not sure if there's much there for anybody to see, though. All they've got is our episodes, and if you're listening to our episode, you've also figured out where you can listen to us. But that's up and running. Oh, we do have a couple comments. This one goes back to Raphael Silva from the Scott Wenzel interview that we did. This actually is a positive one. Remember, we had a negative comment on that episode.
Yeah. Okay, good.
This one says from Raphael Silva, God bless Scott Wenzel and the band White Cross. They were important in my conversion process to Christ. I remember the first time I was embraced by the Holy Spirit listening to the song, You Will Find It There. I didn't understand English and didn't know anything about Christ, but I knew something had happened. Years later, I discovered it was the Holy Spirit who had visited me. And this person is in Brazil and has been converted to Christ for 9 years. And I was going to look this up. We had a couple comments on the One Bad Pig episode we've done, and basically a correction. We had a few comments kind of saying the same thing, that I made a comment about Johnny Cash not being on the One Bad Pig album, and that's That's it, wrong. Yes, Johnny Cash was on the cover that they did of his song, The Man in Black. And to be fair, I always did think he was on that record until we did the episode and I started looking at the liner notes, and it looks like he is not. I'm not sure why the liner notes are misleading, but I stand corrected. Johnny Cash is on the One Bad Pig cover of The Man in Black. All right. So that's about it for news. Yeah, that's it for news.
Time to plug it in and turn it up.
All right. For the plug it in segment, we're going to feature, I should do something a little new here and feature a couple of songs from the fellow we're interviewing today. He's got 2 projects out. We're doing giveaways, one from each of his projects. So I wanted to give you a sample of what you could get or win. So the first one is coming off of Lazarus Grimm record. And this one is called Connected Through All Things. All right, that was Connected Through All Things from Lazarus Grimm off of Destroying Your Legacy. We've got a couple of those CDs to give away. And if you're not quite into the metalcore, he's got a second project out called Veil Bright. We've got a few of those CDs to give away. It's a little less metalcore, a little lighter. And we're going to feature a track off of there called Let Your Presence Come.
Let your presence come, surround her now, fill her with your strength, breathe life into the doubt, speak into her soul, more than words or signs, let her feel your arms, let her know she's loved, let your presence come. Let your presence come. My hand moves over trembling.
So that's a couple of snippets from Let Your Presence Come under the name Veil Bright and Connected Through All Things under the name Lazarus Grimm. I've got CDs of each of those to give away. So if you want to get in on that, just let us know through the comments or reviews, through email, or any of the other ways you can get a hold of us. All right. And joining us now is Robert otherwise known as Lazarus Grimm. How are you doing, Robert?
Good, Aaron. Good, Kris. It's great to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Really, it sounds like you've had an interesting story that should, yeah, be a great story for everybody here, I guess.
Yeah. So, I have a really long story, so I'll try to condense it. And I'm not sure what parts you're interested in. Are you early life, or like kind of what led up to Lazarus Grimm and that kind of thing? And what part do you want me to take you through?
Yeah, definitely. The one of the first questions we usually ask is the musical interest, or what led you to get into music in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I've been in music for as long as I can remember. Music was around in my household. I always had an acoustic guitar. My mother and her dad used to play a lot of music. And when I was in high school, I played in a Christian hardcore band called The Park and took a big interest in like Fruity Loop Studio and making music on the computer as well as actually making music traditionally. And we played in the band for several years. We got really close to getting a decent record deal. We opened for bands like Embodiment, another Esocaris, who later on became Norma Jean. We opened for those guys a few times. And then in high school, we were so young, we kind of went our own separate ways. But music's always been a part of my life. It's always kind of a gift I feel like God's given to me. Continue to play guitar, continue to make music on my own, really used it as kind of a vehicle to kind of vent emotions and stuff like that. But what led up to Lazarus Grimm really was earlier this year. My wife had a heart attack, and this
Oh,
is actually
sorry
the
to
first
hear that.
time. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. This is actually the first time I've talked to anybody about it. So if I'm going to try not to get emotional because I really we've just talked about it with like
Yeah, well, it's okay. Yeah, just take your time.
yeah. So my wife had a heart attack in March, and she had PTSD after the fact, and a lot of it
Mhm.
revolved around the home and things like that. We had a hard time being here. And so for me, I stepped into a support role automatically, and I spend a lot of my time with her, encouraging her through it. And that kind of took away my time to focus on music. And I kind of found just by happenstance, I don't think it's a happenstance, it's really a God thing to me, the ability to make music through AI. And it was something that I could wake up early in the mornings and do while she was still sleeping, and I didn't have to wake her up. I didn't have to make noise. I didn't have to leave her on her own while I was going to play guitar and do music and stuff like that. And that's really what led me to where I am now.
So first, where are you chatting with us from?
Where am I chatting with you guys from? That's a great basic question. I'm in North Carolina. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm in North Carolina. I've been here since 2007. I joined the army in 2007, ended up meeting my wife and marrying here. Before that, I was born and raised in Oklahoma, a small town in Oklahoma. It probably doesn't get much shout out, so I'm going to shout out Poto, Oklahoma. It's a small town. Believe it or not, when I was there, we had a pretty thriving punk rock and metal scene, which was really interesting. But then, yeah, I ended up joining the army and then met my wife here in North Carolina, and I've been here ever since.
Which part of the army?
Yeah, so I was in the airborne. So I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I was a combat engineer. I did one deployment to Iraq and spent the entire time over there looking for bombs that luckily we never found, and I got to come back all in one piece. So
Oh, praise God.
yeah, absolutely. It was definitely God watching over me for sure.
Great. Um, so then back to your early life in music there. Where were some of the influences you had growing up?
Oh man, so many influences. Let's see. I grew up in a really strict religious household, and so anything that was not Southern gospel was the devil's music and
Yeah.
got taken away from me. But luckily, there was a Christian radio station that very late at night, they ran a radio program called The Bridge. And I don't know how I found it, but I think one of the first bands that I heard that I really liked on that station was a band called Plank Eye. You guys might be familiar with Plank Eye. They're like an alternative, like grunge kind of band, like a 90s band. Started listening to them, got into like some punk MXPX stuff. And I'm really young when I'm talking about this. And then just so happened, I had a couple of friends at the church that I was going through who were like into some more like harder stuff, but weren't really out in the open about it because again, we're talking about really strict religious church in small town Oklahoma where anything that wasn't Southern gospel was the devil's music. And so some of the first harder music that I listened to was a band called Unashamed. They're probably touted as maybe being one of the first Christian hardcore bands. So like there's definitely a lot of Christian metal bands that have been around. I mean, Stryper, Tourniquet, bands like that. But in terms of like really hardcore bands, I think like Unashamed, Focused are probably some of the first few bands that came out like that. And that's really what got me into that kind of music. And then from there, I don't know, I just fell in love with it. Something about that style of music, because for me, I feel like it is a really good way to like vent your emotions, but it also had something almost primal feel to it, like the rhythms, the breakdowns, stuff like that. And so it connected really deeply with me. But in terms of the music that I'm making now, I would say my influences fall along the lines more of bands like Living Sacrifice, Project 86, definitely like just X Disciple X, a lot of harder things like that.
Awesome. I take it that you do the songwriting, you do everything, right? The songwriting, the composing,
Yeah, absolutely. I do it all. So, and even when I played in the Christian band, like when I was in high school, when we were actually playing in a band and getting together and writing music together, it was really interesting to work together with a group of guys that you spend this time with, and then you can just sit down, pick up an instrument, start writing a riff, and you can kind of read each other. And so then when that kind of separated and we kind of went our own ways, and I started working on making music myself, just like picking up the guitar, playing it, using a drum machine, going into like PreSonus or something like that. I always felt like there were pieces missing, like the other people were missing from that. Like I just could not compose by myself for a while. But then when I found music via AI, what's really amazing is, and a lot of people turn their nose at AI right now, and I totally understand there's a lot of people scared of AI, but this is what happens in human culture, right? Like history shows time and time again, technology evolves. People were scared of the internet, people were scared of TV, people were scared of radio,
yeah.
right? And so I found AI, and it just gave me control of all of my band members is what it did. So it finally gave me that full control of being able to put in the vision that I saw. So I'll wake up really early in the mornings. This week I've been working on a praise and worship album. So, and I'll go back to that in a second, but a lot of times I'll wake up in the mornings and I'll have lyrics in my mind already when I wake
Sure.
up. And I don't know, God thing, something I was dreaming about, but I'll have lyrics in my mind, and I'll get up and I have my laptop right beside the bed. I pray over my wife in the morning, every morning, and then I grab my laptop, pop it open, and then start writing these lyrics down that I have, and start writing them down and just kind of like listening in my head and seeing like what the sound sounds like. And then it's an iterative process of writing this style that I hear in my head and putting that into the AI tool and then revising it. Some songs I'll spend like several days, multiple hours a day, several days, just going back and forth with it, trying to refine the sound that I get. But everything that you hear, like vocal or lyric wise, not vocal wise, but lyric wise, are lyrics that I've written that's come from either an experience that I've had or a vision or a dream or the season that we're in our life. So yeah, absolutely.
Talk about finding God or God finding you.
Oh man, do you want the really long and complicated and deep answer?
Well,
Yeah, we prefer that. We prefer
Okay.
that.
I was gonna say, or you can give us the highlights, and we can get more into the details later.
I'll try to give you a hybrid. Like I said, I grew up in Oklahoma in a really strict religious house. So for as long as I can remember, I've always been in church. Learned about God at a young age, learned about religion in a really deep way at a very young age. The thing about religion and people going to church is that that's not always the same when you're at home. I had a really, in my opinion, horrible and evil stepfather, and we won't dive into all the specifics of that. I talk about it on the Destroying Your Legacy album. In fact, the album title, the title track, is directly about my childhood and growing up in that experience. But this is the interesting part. As awful and as evil as he was, he's also the person that led me in the sinner's prayer.
Wow.
which was amazing to me because I can remember the night that I said that prayer. I struggle with memory a lot because of drug use and stuff like that in my past, and I'm sure we'll definitely get into that. But I can still remember the night that I said that prayer and just finishing the sinner's prayer and just feeling something different inside of me. Something just changed. I know lots of people have that experience. My wife doesn't have that experience. She's been saved and has said the sinner's prayer, and she never really had that that aha moment. It just kind of gradually built for her. But for me, when I said that prayer, something inside of me changed. I think I was about 10 years old at the time. And again, we stayed in church and all of that stuff. And then lots of things happened. I ended up confronting my stepfather at 16 for some stuff that I had found out. And to make a long story short, I ended up getting kicked out of my house the next day and having to leave and never ever went home after that. Um,
Mm.
and so that put me on a really hard path. I was really trying to escape and not feel emotions and not deal with all the stuff that I had just gone through. And I became a drug addict. I was addicted to methamphetamines for about 6 years. I was drinking. I was really just doing anything I could to kind of check out of my headspace and just not deal with life and deal with hurt and deal with trauma and any of that stuff for a while. So I wasted a lot of my life like that, still playing music, but just wasting life. And then when I was around 25, I confronted this massive mess of wreckage that I had built out of my life. A ruined marriage, lots of things like that. And I just kind of hit bottom. And I realized that I needed to change something, anything. I ended up going to rehab. I stayed in rehab for like 2 days, decided rehab wasn't going to work for me, but something inside my head clicked and was like, I'm done with meth at least. And I never touched meth again after that. But every
Wow.
single day after that was a battle to stay clean. Every day I slowly woke up with like, I'm not going to do drugs today. I'm not going to do drugs today. I was still drinking, still smoking weed, which for some reason I didn't classify as a drug, but definitely did then. And then I ended up joining the army just out of a desperate, like, something's got to change. I'm not this strong. I can't say no for this long. I know you asked me about God in my life. I promise I'm getting there. So ended up joining the army, and that's where I met my wife. And it was really just strange God circumstances that how we met. Like, we met on MySpace. That will kind of show you our age a little bit. She happened to just send me a message on MySpace, and we ended up meeting and hanging out and really liking each other and enjoying each other's company. And she got me going back to church.
Aw.
And in church, I started seeing a different side of religion in North Carolina that I didn't see in Oklahoma. I started seeing it be about relationship with God and not just these strict rules that you have to follow that nobody really bothers to explain why. They just, you have to do this, you have to look like this, or you're going to hell. And here I started learning about having a relationship with God and what that looked like. And my moment really when God stepped back into my life was I was praying at this church because I kept feeling like I was trying to get in God's presence. And I just couldn't. Like I couldn't. Like I felt like I was just being blocked on the outside. And I was like, God, why am I not allowed in? Like what's wrong that I'm not allowed in? And I just heard this like clear as day, like, you need to forgive him because you cannot move past this point until you forgive what your stepfather did to you. And I think it was that day or maybe the next day, I picked up the phone. I called my mom. I asked my mom to put him on the phone and I told him that I forgave him. And it was like this giant weight lifted off of my shoulders and these claws that I had felt in my chest. Every time I talked about my stepfather, it felt like these claws were just digging in my chest. Those claws came out of my chest. And in my mind, that is the moment that God truly came back into my life. And that relationship has just grown since that day.
And how long ago was that? Do you remember?
Oh man. So this would have been probably about a year after my wife and I were married. So 16 years ago.
Wow, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Yeah. So a couple of your songs are talk about your testimony. The opening track and I Am Lazarus Grimm, and a couple others talk about your testimony, um,
Yeah.
and bringing in stuff that you went through into the lyrics.
Yeah, it was so I'm happy to talk about it. Like it was I having friends around and like talking to people about the stuff that I had gone through and especially in the army. Like I was in the army. I was 25 when I joined the army and which so like us right now, like, whoa, 25, that's super young, right? But when you're 25 and you're joining the army with like a bunch of like 18 and 19-year-olds, they call
Right.
you old man, which is what I got called at 25. But what was interesting was like I thought that the life that I lived to that point was normal. I thought that everybody had a really difficult and hard life and went through horrible childhoods and had parents who were really awful to them and things like that. And I started talking to people and learning each other's stories and stuff like that. And everybody was just like, dude, you should write a book about your life. I'm not a book writer. I probably will never write that, but it's always been on my heart to like share that story and share it out. And I started just talking to other people, especially when I got out. I talked to a lot of other people who were going through similar struggles, right? Like trying to kick addiction and going through that and all of that, and just sharing my story and kind of seeing that, like, it's not anything that I said that was like gave them the secret sauce to get yourself clean, because really it takes changing something inside of you to get yourself clean.
Hmm.
But what I saw help them was that they saw somebody who went through something that they went through or were going through and were able to come out and actually do something with their lives as well. And so for me, it was really important to kind of put that in my music, right? To talk about this, to be as brutally honest as I could be and not hold any punches. And also to just like finally put a stake in the ground and really like declare, like, I am destroying the legacy that the enemy had planned for me, because the enemy wanted me dead. Yes, there were so many times that I had car crashes because of how checked out I was that I should not have survived. Like the cops were looking at me going, how are you alive, let alone standing here with no scratches on you? Like there were
Wow.
so many times that happened, just other things. And so for me, it felt like God was like, this is the next phase in your journey. Like you need to put that stake in the ground. You need to claim that you're destroying the legacy, and you need to share that with other people. And so that's what this album was about.
How do you think the transition to you going into the military with all that? I mean, that had to be hard. The basic training. Were you deployed anywhere?
I was, yeah. So absolutely it was hard. Let me tell that story. The night before I went into the army, into basic training, the house that I was living with some friends of mine, everybody had gotten we were a party house, right? So I had been clean, not doing drugs, at least not doing meth. We were still smoking and stuff like that, but we all got together. We had big parties there. It was where everybody came when the bars closed and partied. And then usually I find that on a long enough timeline, any kind of lifestyle like that leads to a lot of drama, which happened. And so eventually all of his friends kind of got into it. There was a big fight, things boiled over, people started moving out, and it just so happened that it kind of timed and lined up with me joining the army. And on the night that I went to go to basic training, I slept on the floor of an empty house with a sleeping bag and the clothes on my back because everybody else had left and I had nowhere to store my stuff while I was gone. And so I just gave it away or threw it in the trash. And my recruiter came and picked me up. I left the sleeping bag and got on a bus and left everything that I had ever known for the first 25 years of my life behind. I talk to my son about this a lot, about recognizing chapter turning moments in your life, because you got to know like when that's building up and you're coming to the close of that chapter and it's time to turn the page. And it's always a bittersweet moment. For me, I was scared, I was afraid, I was sad, but I was hopeful and excited going into that unknown of what the future was going to hold. Man, basic training was rough. I'm not going to lie. They play mind games with you. Their whole goal through basic training is to try to break you to see who's going to quit and give up.
That's
Because the
right.
last thing that you want with somebody going down range is somebody who's going to quit and give up.
How
So
long was it? Do you
basic
remember
training,
how long
I
was it?
think it was 4 to 6 weeks, maybe longer. I can't remember. And then we do something called MIT, which is your personal training of like what your specialty skill is. And so, it was great. It was exactly what I needed in that moment of time. I needed something to grab a hold of me and force me to take on structure, to learn discipline, and to get my mind right so that I could move on and do what I needed to do in the rest of my life. Army wise, I did a deployment to Iraq. We were in Baghdad. I did route clearance missions. I loved it, you guys. As far as being in the Army goes, my wife hates it when I say this because we were married. Right after her and I married, I deployed the next month. And so our first year of marriage was me being gone on a deployment. And she hates it when I say this, but when I was in the Army, I would take being deployed anytime over being back here in garrison because in garrison, they have you do some really dumb stuff like stand underneath pine trees and wait for pine needles to fall so you can catch them so that the grass stays clean. But when you actually get to go and deploy and do the job that you've been trained to do, it's amazing. And I don't know, it gets you somewhere in your headspace too. Like you really start to gain perspective on things. And for me, one of the things that I learned during my deployment was how out of control I was and have always been of my life. Like I could have died any day rolling out the gate. I was just one wrong move away from poking the wrong rock and it exploding and blowing up our vehicles. And I had to make a decision on like, am I going to let that control my experience here? Or am I going to understand that and still go on and do what I need to do and be who I need to be in this moment?
That sounds like a song right there. You know?
It definitely needs to be. It definitely needs to be for sure. And I'm sure it will be.
So it's not yet, but that one's coming, I guess.
That one's coming. Well, I just dropped a single today. I know I put an album out like last month, but like I'm super giddy when it comes to music. Like I love music. I love making music. I actually dropped a single today called Where Have You Been? And it was a song that I wrote about that moment when I kind of connected with God and was like, I've gone through all this stuff in my life. Like, where have you been? Why didn't you shield me from this? And he like literally showed me, he's like, this is where I was in that car crash when police were asking you, why aren't you scratched? This
Yeah,
is
he
where I
was
was when you were deployed and you didn't even have to pull your trigger. This is where I was on all those times that you should have overdosed and died and you didn't. And so actually I put that out today. So it talks a little bit about the Army stuff, but it doesn't dive deep into it.
Right. Talk about some of your other songs. Talk about Cast the First Stone.
Yeah, Cast the First Stone is probably one of my favorite songs in the album. That one and The Serpent of Control. Cast the First Stone is really a direct response that I wrote to how I see a lot of. Let me take a step back. Being from the Army, or not from the Army, but having prior military experience, one of the things that I truly believe in is policing your own, calling out people in a way when you see people on your side who are not holding the line and not doing what they should do. So Cast the First Stone is really a direct response to a lot of the way that I see religious people treating other sinners, because we're all sinners, right? Like none of us are perfect, right? And so I see a lot of people walking around with religious pride and just not taking the time to get to know people, judging them, telling them that they're going to hell, and then walking off like they have this shiny badge of honor because they've done their godly duty for the day. And in fact, a couple of years ago, I had enough of it on social media. And so I was like, okay, as Christians, we're supposed to be little Christ, right? Like that's what the name Christian means. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to every day get up and read until I read through the entire New Testament because I want to see firsthand how Jesus treated people that are called sinners. And to the best of my knowledge and the best of my memory, you cannot find anywhere where he is harsh or ruthless or angry or mean or even intolerant to people that we would call sinners. And the first time I ever said that, somebody told me, well, yeah, but he told the woman at the well to go and sin no more. And I was like, yeah, that's like the last thing that he said to her after he spent like the entire day with her,
Yeah.
building a relationship, learning about her, talking to her. However, there are tons of references of Jesus being very vocal and very loud to the religious people claiming to do things in his father's name when really they were just walking around in religious pride. And so that's what Cast the First Stone is about. My wife has a lot of religious trauma as a woman in the South, where there is a big movement right now to not let women lead in the church because it's not biblical, and things
Right.
like that. My wife has undergone a lot of religious trauma before we had ever gotten together through some churches that she had been to before. And it was just me drawing a line and being like, this is not God. Like, this is not the way that Jesus showed us to be.
So as part of that, what you said with your wife's religious trauma, is that part of the message in You Called Her Out?
Yeah, that's exactly. And in fact, that specific song, You Called Her Out, is about the church that really did a lot of damage to her and hurt her in a lot of different ways. It was more of a cult than a church. And my wife was like, you need to explain this, because when people hear you say you called her out solid rock, they're going to think you're talking about Jesus, right? Because Jesus is the solid rock. But this church was called Solid Rock Ministries. They're no longer
Ah.
around. They're no longer around at all. But I wanted to rewrite that story for her. And I wanted to kind of write a song for her that kind of showed for her that I was, even though I wasn't there at the time, because this was before we were together, I wanted to try to heal some of that past trauma, right? And like be like, if I was here, if I could have been here then, like this is how I would have handled it and the words that I would have said. And that's exactly what it's about.
Yeah, a song to stand up for, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And not just her, right? Like, again, in the South, there's a big movement right now. Like, it had gone away, but it's coming back about women not having positions in church. Lots of people are like, women
Yeah,
are less than men and all of that stuff.
it's
And
crazy.
so it's crazy. It's not just for her. It's for all women, or not even women, men, anybody who has been persecuted on this like false hypocrisy doctrine of like, you got to walk like we do, talk like we do, and if you don't do all of this and do all of that, and setting these impossibly high standards when really they're not any better than anybody else.
Yeah, they're just like us. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of hypocrisy in the church, a lot of false ideas. And it's not, I think, not necessarily maybe the higher ups' fault, or I'm not talking about those who run and control certain churches. I think some of them have just been led to believe in false ideas and doctrines, and they may be ignorant in the ways, don't know any better. And you talk about standing up for women and shooting down this idea that they can't be in leadership positions and stuff like this. Um, can you defend that biblically?
Can I defend it biblically?
Yes.
So it's funny you asked that. We were just reading some verses. I can't remember exactly where it was at, but there is a verse in the Bible where it talks about men and women being equal, neither are less or greater than the other.
Right.
But at the end of the day, right, like Colossians lays this out so clear. It lays out what the greatest gift is, right? Like if you can prophesy, it doesn't matter if you don't know how to love. If you have the gift of speaking in tongues, it doesn't matter if you don't know how to love. Literally, Colossians says, anything that you can say that you can do does not matter if you don't know how to love people. And then it says something really interesting. It says, and of love, there is no law. I'm not saying we should be a lawless society, but I'm just saying that it's really interesting that it says that. And so, again, it goes back to, what spirit is that operating out of? Are you
Hmm.
operating out of a spirit of love? Or are you operating out of a different spirit?
Right. And to be clear, it's not like I was against that position in the first place. I just wanted maybe the listeners
No,
who,
I appreciate it. No, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on it.
yeah, just because it kind of came up. A couple more. You mentioned Serpent of Control before. What was the message behind that song?
Yeah, so Serpent Control was a song that I wrote about my wife. So we talked about the heart attack. What we haven't talked about, and we talked about the PTSD, what we haven't talked about is that she has battled anxiety a larger part of her life. A lot of it is, in my opinion, my non-professional opinion, is brought on from the different narcissistic men that have been in her life, including her father, and then just other leaders and people who have kind of belittled her and put her down and stuff like that. And so I actually wrote this song after she had the heart attack and was battling through the PTSD, and then all of that just resurfaced a lot of religious trauma. And I had this dream, and in this dream, I saw my wife and I saw this gigantic snake wrapped around her body with its mouth over her head. And it
Mm.
wasn't trying to kill her or wasn't trying to eat her. What it would do is it would squeeze her body with its its coils, and then it would inject poison into her mind. And so it was like I was seeing this issues that she was having physically, and then it causing fear and the fear trying to control her. And it was like I was seeing this spiritual battle that she was going through. And so that's where I come in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a song about what I saw. And then as I was just writing through the process and going through the process, God was just speaking in these words, and this prayer came out, and it talks about there's actually like, it almost dives into, not that she's possessed. I'm not saying that because she's definitely not, but it almost dives into like I'm trying to cast this spirit out, cast it away kind of thing. And there's a prayer in Hebrew in there as well. And then actually right following the prayer of Hebrew, it does the English translation.
I actually want to speak on that, bringing the idea to bring the Hebrew language and prayer into your song or songs.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know why my wife and I got interested in Hebrew. It was several years ago. First of all, it's a beautiful language. Neither one of us are
Yes.
Jewish, but it is an absolutely beautiful language. And I think that there's just something about hearing the Bible, reading the Bible in the languages that it was actually written in at the time. And one of the things that I love about the advancement of technology is that I can now go back and read the Bible in Hebrew, show me what it looks like in Hebrew, and then have it translated line for line so I can literally see what it was saying before it was translated by scholars and all of the fun stuff that happened to the Bible along its timeline to what we have now. But my wife and I have always loved the language for some reason. Well, you can't see it. Maybe if I turn this way, I have Yahweh, it's upside down, but I have God's name Yahweh tattooed here,
Mhm.
and the burning bush from Moses here. My wife also has Yahweh tattooed on the same wrist with a flame, but just a different direction. We've just always been fascinated with the old language, that. And so when I started writing these, I just wanted something that kind of brought that ancient feel to it. Like, this is ancient and sacred. This prayer is ancient and sacred. Like, I wanted it to have that power to it. And that's why I brought it into the music.
Yeah, lately I've been listening a lot to the old Hebrew music out of Israel, and there's something about it, like just to hear, like by your stripes I'm healed, and hear it in Hebrew. It's wow, like
It connects here, right? Like, you feel it here differently than other music and other languages. There's something about hearing it in Hebrew that just gets you right here.
Mhm.
If you haven't, Kris, listen to the song God is With Us on Destroying Your Legacy, the album. That is, it, it alternates between Hebrew and English, but it is my daily prayer that I say for my family and over the house. And it has a lot of ancient Hebrew sound kind of mixed into it, as well as a little bit of yelling and metal kind of sound as well. Definitely check
Yeah,
that one out,
thank
Kris.
you.
I know you're not a huge fan of the loud yelling, screaming music, but this
Who
one has
said
a little bit
that?
mellow. I think I heard on a couple of episodes, maybe it gets too loud for you. I don't know.
Chris likes the
I mean,
balance.
I can hear, I'll be okay for a song or two, but then after that, I'll be like, okay.
And my wife is the same way. She says it overwhelms her. Like, she likes heavy music, but she likes stuff where they don't yell. And so I can play a few songs, and then she's like, okay, I got to take a break now, dear.
I love you.
Yeah, yeah. This is great. You're awesome, but I feel like I need to run away and go get some distance and kind of cool down because it's making me feel anxious.
I wanted to ask you, so when you perform live, how does that work?
So I do not perform live, and at the moment I have no plans to. It just does not work with my family dynamics right now at all. Under the right circumstances, that could definitely change. And if I was going to do that, what I would do is hire a band and do the vocals. But I'm just not in a position to do that. Like right now, my wife really needs me with her full time, and just the economy and having to work. Like this is like music is really. I feel like it's something that God put on my heart, and if He tells me to start doing it live and doing performances, I'm absolutely not going to tell him no. But for me right now, that's a no.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And back to the music or the heaviness of it. I'm kind of the same way. I listen to your stuff going, well, there's definitely a great message here. So that's something that's positive that we can talk about. Musically, I think you've lost both Kris and I, but there are times where there's actually very great melodic voice that, and there were a couple of songs that as I was listening to and going, I could get in this one, I could get into this one, and I like that one, Connected Through All Things. Again, you kind of lost me with the screaming part of it. I realized that's your style and that's what you're going for. But
no, I can definitely understand and appreciate that it's not everybody's style of music. I'm glad that you found some stuff to connect with, for sure.
As a vocalist, I mean, I sing as well. How do you take care of your voice?
So it's really just about knowing how to do it. And some people just have it, right? And some people just don't. So it's really just knowing how to do it. And I'll be honest with you guys, the vocals on the album are not me, they're AI as well, but I do vocals as well. So I could do those vocals, I could sing. I just, for the purposes, like, again, this is stuff that I could do while my wife is sleeping. And so I don't have to wake her up. But in terms of those kind of vocals, Kris, to answer your question, it's a lot of warm up. It's a lot of knowing your limits. It's a lot of knowing like when to stop, when to take care of your voice, preparing for it and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. I hear you when you say that was your reason for using the AI. I'm one of the guys that is reluctant to embrace it. I don't even like going to a live show and knowing the band's using tracks. And a lot of them will do that with the backup vocals. The band plays live, but there's a whole chorus of backing vocals. I'm going, live is live. Live is not a recording. But that being said, like I said, I understand where you're coming from. And most of the time I got to be conscious of who's around and quiet. But then I got that moment where it's just me in the house. That's when I turn on the amp and crank it up. And I'm like, I come home.
Yeah, I see the guitars. Yeah.
Yes. Everybody's gone. Good. Now I got a chance to do what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, I told my wife we're actually about to put our house on the market here. And I told her, I was like, we can do whatever you want for the house, but I need a room that's away from everybody else. Because while I love doing music in the AI, I love it. I want to be able to do vocals on it, because I want to be able to have the control that I want and it not to be all A. I just don't have the space to do it right now.
Right. Yeah. I think Dale Thompson has something about that. We had him on as a guest.
I saw that episode.
Yeah, he was talking about singing. He says, and he would spend all the time in his little room yelling and singing out.
Yeah, you need to do that as a vocalist. I do it here, and it's part of the thing, right? A vocalist, you got to do it.
You got to keep it going too, right? If you don't stay on top of it, you lose it and you have to get back into it.
That's right. Then it takes longer to get back.
Yep.
You talked earlier And when you had to forgive your stepfather and the weight that was lifted off that, did forgiveness come through in any themes on your songs on this record?
Yeah, so actually in the title track, Destroying Your Legacy, at the very end of it, so the whole song, Destroying Your Legacy, talks about this, talks a lot and goes into detail about the stuff that he put us through. And the chorus is, you know, you were the evil in the walls, you bled the light from our eyes and things like that. But at the very end, I talk about how God guided me. I picked up the phone, I called him, I spoke the words, and then in forgiveness, I found the release. And so at the very end of it, I do talk about finding that forgiveness, finding the strength, and all of that. So my main thing in that song is like, I want to talk about what legacy I'm destroying, but I don't want to leave off with just resurfacing and rehashing trauma. I want to make sure that at the end, it talks about how I resolved that, right? Because there are too many people that never resolve their trauma. And I want to make sure that I talked about how I got through that and what it was like and how that brought me that release. And then at the end, I also talk about, you know, that I say Yahweh a lot. I like to use God's actual name, Yahweh. And so I talk about how Yahweh guided me through it and gave me strength to do that, because Robert could not have done that on his own. Robert wanted, and I talk about it very plainly in the song, Robert wanted to end his stepfather's life. But instead, I found that strength and forgave him and let that go. And it talks about it at the end of that song.
Right. Actually, talking about the Army, Robert, that was one point that I was going to bring up when you were talking about your time in the Army. Where was your faith, or where was your connection to God at that point? Like, did that come after the Army, during the Army, or what?
Yeah, so when I joined the Army and met my wife, she got me back in church. But that giant moment that I had where I forgave my stepfather didn't come till after I came back from deployment. So when I was in the Army and deployed, I would say that my relationship with God was there and very much a part of what got me through that and helped me survive. And that's the great thing about looking back on your life. Like, you can never see it in the moment, but when you look back at on your life, like, and ask God where he's been, like, he will absolutely show you, like, and walk you
Yeah.
through it. My relationship with God wasn't where I wished it would have been then, but I still had faith in God. His relationship with me has never changed. It's always been me that's walked away. And so it was definitely a part of that when I was deployed. It was probably about a year before I got out of the Army when I made that phone call and kind of had that big moment and that relationship kind of restore.
Has it been years later? Have you talked to that? Like, what's your relationship like with your dad now?
Yeah, so let me be very clear. Just because you forgive somebody who has done horrible things to you in your life does not mean that they have to become a part of your life.
That's right.
Especially when you know that they are still the person who has hurt you and they have never put in the work to make change, and that they are still a bad person. Just because you forgive them doesn't mean that you excuse what they did to you.
And
Just
you,
because you forgive them doesn't mean that they get to have influence or occupy any space of your life. When you forgive somebody, you are letting go of the weight that you carried from being hurt. Doesn't mean they get to come back in your life. And so I have spoken to my stepfather, and I do want to make something really clear up something. It was my stepfather. My dad was an addict as well. He got clean a long time ago before I was ever addicted to drugs. And he was in my life and is an amazing, wonderful person who has helped me through so much stuff. But as far as me and my stepfather, I think we may have spoken twice in the past, I don't know, 30 years or so. But not allowed in my life, not allowed in my family's life, not allowed in my children's life, not allowed.
Right. Was there any other aspects of your music that, or themes in your music that you wanted to talk about?
I think that on the album, my personal favorite song that I wrote was was Thank You. And I think that it's really important for people to, myself included, for us to get to a place of gratitude, and not just for the things that go right. Like I talk in that song, I say it like really clearly. I thank God for the struggles that I went through because now I see the strength that it built in me. And so for me, above all the songs on that album, I think that that song has probably the most meaning and the most power in it, is because I really go, and there's not a lot of screaming in that one, you guys. So if you want to check it out, it's a good one. But I go through and I talk about just all this stuff that I'm thankful for, not just the things that went right, not just the things that went wrong, the strength that it built in me. But then I also thank God for like small things, right? Like I think one of the things that we as humans have lost touch with is how wonderful and magical this world that God created for us is, right? Like it is
Amen.
amazing
It
that
really
you can
is.
go and put a seed in the ground and it grows something that you can eat. And like we see that and we take it for granted every single day because it's just science, right? Like that's how it worked. Like no, that's wonderful. That's magical. Like God made that system for us so that we could live here. And I think that we take way too much for granted as people. And that's why that gratitude song was so important for me to write and put in the album.
Great. You had played live in the past. You had played guitar. What was your favorite guitar or your choice when you were playing with the guitars?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start this off by going back to saying I was in high school. I was a broke high school kid. So my favorite guitar and favorite equipment was the stuff that I could afford. Which was a gosh, what was it? My dad actually got my first guitar for me for Christmas. I think he spent $150 on it. It was a red Epiphone that had humbucker pickups. I got some like half stack pawn shop amp, and played it until it broke and all of that stuff. I think my favorite guitar that I ever had, and I only had it for a short period of time, and I'm going to pronounce the name wrong, and I only had it for a short period of time because I loaned it to somebody, and it ended up becoming a long-term loan because I have no idea where they moved with my guitar and don't have their
Oops.
phone number. But it was I'm going to say the name wrong, but it was a Schrecter, I think is what it was. I might say it right. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. I think it's pronounced Schecter or something like that. but-
Schecter, yeah, there we go. I loved it. The action on it, man, it just played really smooth. The guitar that I have now is an Ibanez, and it's actually a really beautiful guitar. I'll pull it out just because I'm not a broke teenager anymore, and I could actually afford to buy myself semi-nice stuff. This is what I'm playing on now.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Very nice.
Yeah. But then in terms of like gear, I have the Boss Katana amp.
Okay, yeah.
It's nice. It's small. It sits right beside me, hooks up to the computer. You can get all the crazy different effects, run it into like your sound studio and stuff. So I play on that a lot. As well, if I ever had to go back to playing live, I would probably go with something like from Mesa Boogie or something like that.
Yeah, no, I just had to ask him.
What about you? What are you playing on?
I've got a few of them. I started out with, my first one was the BC Rich Warlock. I was a
Nice.
yes, I was a big fan. Still am a big fan of the band Wasp. And when I saw Blackie
Okay.
with that guitar and then that bass, I'm like, that's what I got to have. I didn't know anything about guitars at the time and stuff. So I got that. I also got a Mexican-made Fender Strat. Everybody's
Nice.
got to have a Strat, and then got a cheap Les Paul, which was secondhand through Marketplace. And I've got a custom one that it started out as a Jackson something or other, and I've
Okay.
totally rebuilt everything, replaced everything, including the neck, and refinished it. Was a nice shiny
That's
black
awesome.
one, and I redid it. But when they failed rock stars.
You never know. You never know. God gives us that talent for a reason. Sometimes it's just a
That's
timing
right.
thing, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, talking about music or dreams, I guess. If a band were to call you up and say, "Hey, we want you to come and sing for us live, or do a jam session," who would you love to have jammed with?
If any band called me up,
Any band.
Who would
yeah.
you like to hang out with?
oh man, let's see. Okay. There, it's hard. I'm having a hard time deciding between two bands, and the reason that these are the two bands is because they're not together anymore. And I never got to see them. No, I take that back. I got to see one live, but I have to say, if I could pick one band to go jam with, it would probably be X Disciple X.
Okay.
I never got to see them live. I love their music. They're not together anymore. And to be clear, I'm talking about X Disciple X, not Disciple, who I believe is still together.
Yeah, the band Disciple still is, but
Disciples
Yeah,
together,
but-
yeah.
Yeah, but X Disciple X, the hardcore band from Erie, Pennsylvania, their vocalist Dave Quiggle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
their vocalist Dave Quiggle. You guys might know who he is. He works for Face Down. He does a lot of like graphic arts and stuff like that. But yeah, I would definitely go jam with them if they called me up for sure.
sounds good. Who was the other band you were going to mention? You're allowed to mention more than one.
Strong Arm.
Okay.
I love Strong Arm.
All
I've
right.
always loved Strong Arm.
Sounds good. One of the things too, when we were planning this episode, there we thought we weren't sure how the conversation was going to go, and we were talking about doing a split episode. We've pretty much filled up our time, but we can quickly rattle off. I had asked Kris, who kind of forgot about his assignment, and asked you come up with like 5 bands in the past that got to start in the past 25 years. And to me, past 25 years is a long time, but sounds like a new band to me, because I grew up in the 80s listening to bands. Anything after 96 is kind of a new band to me.
Gotcha.
So-
yeah,
Yeah,
I threw together a list for that for sure.
All right. Well, how about Kris? You start, because you got
I
any
got,
bands on your list?
Theocracy and Disciple.
Okay. And all right, that's all you got is those two? All right. Any songs stick out from those two that you like? Kris?
Any songs?
Yeah.
Boy, oh, now you got me. Dear X, You Don't Own Me by Disciple. That's
Okay.
a really good song.
Right.
Theocracy. Don't know that very much about them, so I can't pick a Theocracy song.
Okay. Robert, what was on your list?
So my list consists of mostly hardcore bands, but I threw some other stuff in here as well. Also, I did stick with stuff. I know you said that if it's in the past 25 years, it's new to you, but this is stuff that was in my younger years, just because these are some bands that I think many people today may have not heard yet because they are a little bit older. First on my list, I put Starflyer 59. Jason Martin of Starflyer 59, in my opinion, is one of the greatest guitar players ever. And he would probably not consider himself that, but he started doing like noise rock a long time ago. And then he has just like grown and transitioned his style and has so many albums out, and his guitar playing has just changed. And it's just the creativity that he puts into it while keeping it really simple it blows me away. Just his creative approach. I think it was their second album called Gold. The song Do You Ever Feel That Way is the one that I would call out for that one. My next band is Living Sacrifice.
Oh yes.
The song Reject. That is the first hardcore song that I ever got to experience live. Some friends of mine were going to, it was called Tooth and Nail Music Festival in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. We had no idea who Living Sacrifice was like, or who they were, or what they were like. They stepped on stage and started that riff that's like dun 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 dun, and then it just comes in and goes crazy. And I was like, my gosh, where has this music been all my life? They're amazing.
We'll probably, Kris and I will be talking about Living Sacrifice, I think, on the next episode. Either next one or very shortly. We plan on doing a history of thrash and the big four of thrash pioneer bands. And I think we're going to be talking about Living Sacrifice with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, they have a really good history.
Are there any bands there in the US that you've seen that stood out to you?
Their live show standing out to me. I saw Strong Arm's last performance at Cornerstone 1998, and you can find the videos of it on YouTube. It was amazing just because everybody that was in that scene loved that band so much that we actually made them play all of their songs twice through before we would let them get off the stage.
That's
It
cool.
was amazing. Yeah, so and they're on my list as well. So Strong Arms on my list, the song Council of Perfection, and then a band, I think they only have a couple of albums out. There's a band called Hands, and the song is called I Will that I threw on there.
Okay.
It's probably one of the first times I've heard a real amazing mix of like just melodic, like clean guitar, but still gets heavy and like singing and heavy mix. It's amazing. I already talked about X Disciple X. So Kris, I actually threw one on my list specifically for you because I was
Thank
watching an
you.
episode and you had said a kid had asked you why you guys don't talk about rap. And so I threw in a group. They're not a rap group, but they did a rap song, and it's Family Force 5. The song is called Ghost Ride the Whip, and it's amazing. It's a great song.
Yeah, they are a good group, but I think it breaches we have criteria.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we're stretching our musical boundaries,
That's right.
but
That's right. We don't play New Kids on the Block.
no,
okay?
no. And with that being said about stretching the musical boundaries, I am sure there's people out there that listen to the really heavy stuff, the metalcore, even the Christian death metal, which I'm not into, but I know there's people out there that are. So we thought we would kind of touch on that side of the things. I'll run down my list, and in no particular order. Basically, what I did was I kind of went through my iTunes library, and I buy physical CDs, load them into my library. So I'm like scratching my head, going, "Well, who do I like that's new?" But there were some good ones on there. So and basically, if they were in my library, I've probably spent money and bought them. So that says something about how much I like them. One of the new bands, a band called Rising Force, which I only heard about through Facebook. Someone had mentioned that, and when I checked them out, I'm like, these guys are good. There was a song there called Thrill of a Lifetime. They've got that 80s sound. That one, there are certain bands that when you hear for the first time, make your ears perk up and go, these guys are great. That was kind of Rising Force for me. There was another band on there called Diviner, which are a band out of Greece. Their vocals are very similar to Ronnie James Dio. In fact, the vocalist before forming Diviner used to be in a Dio tribute band. And I discovered these guys when I kind of brought up that question on Facebook. I'm like, I don't think there's anybody out there that sounds like Dio, but just in case, who does? And this was the answer I got. Big fan of Dio's vocal styling, and I'm going, yeah, I like. They are very much, I'd say, a power metal band with Dio-like vocals. So yeah, check out Earth, Moon, and Sun from them. And the other band, very new band, we've had a couple guests on here mention them before. Chaotic Resemblance, and one of my favorites from them was a song called Onto the Lamb. Fairly new. They've only got 2, possibly 3 albums out. They've got like a Skid Row type of sound. The vocals are different. They're not like Sebastian Bach. There's a couple songs on there that definitely are very heavily Skid Row influenced, and I'm talking about the Slave to the Grind era with maybe a little harsher edge to it type. So that's. And then last on the list is a band I really want to kind of bring up and promote. They've got to give Martin, who used to be with Vengeance, is on bass for this band. The band is called Reign of Glory. Again, another band. Yeah, another band that, man, just made my head explode when I heard them. I loved them. I would go with the song Samson's Kryptonite. The first time I heard them was last year when we were talking about Immortal Fest, and they were at last year's Immortal Fest, and I just loved the stuff that I heard from them. They've got a brand new CD out too. I think we talked about this in the news. Brand new CD that I just acquired. It was actually posted, I think, on the Facebook group page. How much I love this CD. Great CD. So that's my list.
Nice.
Awesome.
That 80s sound has come back too, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, no worries.
You've had a great message. It's great that you're able to get your message out through music.
And I promise I will listen to the album. It might take me a month, but I will do it. I will do it.
If you need to listen to it in small doses, or Kris, would love it if you would just listen to God Is With Us. If you get through that one, that'd make me happy.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Aaron, Kris, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I know my music goes beyond a little bit your musical boundaries, but I really appreciate this, you guys. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it.
No, you're welcome. We did enjoy having you on. Thanks for coming and all that. And
Yeah.
God bless everybody.
And God bless. We'll
Yep.
see you there.
God bless everybody. Thanks, guys.
Arin Rockman H, Rock and Metal Faith Podcast here. We've got another contest. Essentially, it's really just a giveaway to tell you about Robert Campbell, otherwise known as Lazarus Grimm. Lazarus Grimm, Destroying Your Legacy. Check it out on Spotify. And it's a metalcore artist, since a little bit of singing, but lots of metalcore style screaming type vocals. If you're into that kind of thing, check it out. If you want a CD, let us know about that. He's also got a second project out under the name Veil Bright. This is a little bit softer, not quite as metalcore. The music is a little softer, more singing and melody in the vocals. I've got a few CDs of each of those to give away. So if you want one of those, all you gotta do is let me know. From all those responses I get, I will randomly pick. And all you gotta do is let me know in comments to the podcast episodes or email us. You can even contact us on our Facebook web page. All the places you can reach out to us. Reach out, let us know if you want one of the CDs. Once again, that's Veil Bright, Still She Rises, or Lazarus Grimm, Destroying Your Legacy. And check out the episode all about Lazarus Grimm as we talk about the music behind that.